Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today for this quick little mini video on solving radical equations. We're going to do two examples today, and the first example says x minus 1 is equal to the quantity of the square root 2x plus 13. So when we're solving radical equations, what we're looking for, let me grab my pointer, what we're looking for is really that we have one square root on one side all by itself. Now, we're trying to figure out what x is. So what we need to be asking ourselves is, how can I get my x by itself on one side of the equal sign and a plain old number on the other side of the equal sign? Well, our first question is, how do I get rid of the square root? Because right now I have this 2x and it's underneath the square root. So just like when you guys were solving regular problems, like if I give you a very simple example like 2x equals 10, we do the opposite of dividing by 2. So down here, what would be the opposite of a square root? And what we're learning this unit is that the opposite of a square root is to square something. So a square and a square root are opposites. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So just like when we were practicing over here with the 2x equals 10 and I divided by 2 on both sides, if I square one side, I also have to square the other side. So what happens is when you take the square root and you square it, they cancel each other out. So what I'm going to be left with on the right-hand side is 2x plus 13. On the left-hand side, please write it out so that way you have a better idea of what's going on over here. What we really have is x minus 1 times x minus 1. This is a FOIL problem. X times x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times negative 1 would be a positive 1. So now I just need to do some combining of like terms. So I will have x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 2x plus 13. This is a quadratic, so in order for us to solve a quadratic, we learned this unit that I need to move all of my x's to one side so that it's set equal to 0. So let's work on doing that. I'm going to change slides where we're at. So where we're at is right here. I have x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 2x plus 13. So let's move my 2x over. Let's move my 13 over. That's going to equal 0. So I get x squared minus 4x minus 12. And now what we learned how to do this unit is to factor a quadratic. Some of you use the magic diamond, others of you have other methods to use, but what I'm looking for are two numbers that multiply together to give us negative 12, but add together to give us a negative 4. So the two factors that do that would be a negative 6 and a positive 2. Now at this stage, they're still called factors. We've covered this quite a few times. What the problem asked us for are the solutions. The solutions are where we set it equal to 0 and solve. So our solutions are really the opposite of what we see when it's in factored form. So these are my two solutions, but I'm going to put a little question mark here because once we find our solutions, we have to take them and plug them back into the original to check them. So if you were to take these, plug them in and check them, positive 6 would work. Negative 2 would not work. So my real answer is just a 6. So by the time you finish, please remember that you need to check your solutions by plugging them back into the original problem for x. These are what we call an extraneous solution, an extra solution. That one was extraneous.